She was moments away from saying "I do" when the police stormed in and handcuffed her at the altar. But here's the twist. Her husband didn't even know she had a twin. So, who really committed the murder? The day began like a dream. Sunlight spilling gently through half-drawn curtains, the soft rustle of satin, the scent of fresh roses drifting in from the hallway. In the bridal suite of a high-end Lagos hotel, Amelia Roberts sat motionless before the mirror, her hands resting in her lap, her wedding gown flowing around her like spilled cream. Her makeup was flawless, soft gold dusted on her eyelids, lips the color of rosewater, her skin glowing with the kind of beauty people paid to capture in photographs. But her eyes told another story. Behind the lashes and liner, they shimmered, not with joy, but with something else, something darker, something heavier. Her bridesmaids buzzed around her, fixing her train, adjusting her earrings, snapping selfies. Laughter echoed in the room, but Amelia barely heard them. Her chest ached from holding her breath for too long. Her fingers trembled when she reached for her veil. From the outside, she was the perfect bride, graceful, composed, and deeply in love. But inside, a storm was building. She stared into the mirror and whispered to herself, "Just get through today. Just say the vows. Just be his bride." But her reflection didn't look back with comfort. It looked back with guilt and fear. Outside, the city of Lagos carried on as always. Drivers honking in traffic, hawkers shouting on the streets, life rushing forward without pause. But in this quiet room, time had slowed to a crawl. Every tick of the clock was a heartbeat louder than the last. She thought about Daniel, about how much he loved her, how gently he held her hands, how he called her his peace. He didn't know. He had no idea about the past, about the lie, about her. Tears threatened her lashes, but she blinked them away quickly before anyone could see. Today wasn't the day to break. It was supposed to be the day she began again. She just prayed the past wouldn't come crashing through the door before she said, "I do." Daniel Okonkwo stood in the dim back room of the Grand Cathedral of St. James, running his hand nervously over the front of his tailored navy suit. His best man, Kenny, teased him lightly. "Guy, relax. You look like you're about to faint." Daniel chuckled, but the smile didn't last. His palms were sweaty, and his heart pounded in his chest like drums from his village festival. He'd never been this nervous in his life, not during exams, not during job interviews, not even when he met Amelia's quiet gaze for the first time a year ago at a charity fundraiser in Victoria Island. Amelia had been different. She didn't speak much, but when she did, her voice melted through his soul. She had this stillness, this kindness, like a safe harbor in a storm. She never talked much about her family, only saying they were far away and better left in the past. Daniel didn't push. He saw the sadness in her eyes when she mentioned them, and he chose to love her whole, scars and all. Now, surrounded by white roses, family, and the soft hum of violins, he was just moments away from making her his wife. He took a deep breath and looked around the cathedral, the high marble pillars, the stained glass windows glowing in the sunlight, the sea of loved ones smiling in anticipation. Then the music shifted. Everyone stood. And there she was. Amelia. She walked slowly, her white gown catching the light like a ripple of silk. Her veil shimmered. Every step was delicate, careful, like she was walking on broken glass. Daniel couldn't breathe. She looked like a painting, soft, fragile, beautiful. But as their eyes met, something flickered in hers. A hesitation. A deep sadness he couldn't name. It lasted only a second before she smiled. But Daniel saw it. He knew something was off, but he pushed the thought aside. Today was too perfect to question anything. As she reached him and took his hand, he whispered, "Are you okay?" She smiled. Yes. But deep inside, Amelia was screaming. The priest's voice echoed through the cathedral, steady and warm. "If anyone has a reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." A quiet hush settled over the room. Heads turned, just in case someone dared to interrupt the perfect wedding. But there was only silence. Then, a sharp noise. The creak of the grand door swinging open, too forceful, too sudden. A murmur rippled through the guests. Every head turned. At the entrance stood two uniformed police officers, stone-faced and unmoved by the decorated beauty of the moment. Amelia's blood ran cold. The lead officer stepped forward with purpose. His voice sliced through the sacred stillness. "Amelia Roberts, you are under arrest for the murder of Dr. Felix Gray." Gasps exploded through the pews. Someone dropped a phone. An elderly woman clutched her chest. The bride's bouquet fell to the floor, petals scattering across the aisle like a cruel omen. Daniel blinked, stunned. "What?" he stammered. "This must be a mistake. What are you talking about?" Amelia stood frozen, pale as her gown. She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't speak. As the officers approached, she finally whispered, almost too faint to hear, "I didn't do it." The handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "No! Wait! Stop!" Daniel rushed forward, heart racing. He reached for her, but the officers held him back. "There has to be a mistake. She's innocent." She looked at him with glassy eyes full of secrets he'd never been told. And just like that, Amelia was taken away, dragged from the altar in front of the man she was meant to marry, in front of hundreds of witnesses, still wearing her veil, still smelling of perfume and lilies. Photographers snapped pictures. Phones recorded every second. The most beautiful wedding of the year had become a scandal before the vows were even spoken. Daniel stood at the altar, his heart crushed beneath the weight of confusion and betrayal. He had no idea what had just happened, or who he had almost married. The cold of the police cell clung to Amelia's skin like damp cloth. Her wedding dress, now wrinkled and smeared with dirt, pooled around her on the hard bench. The delicate veil had been removed. Her fingers, once adorned with manicured nails and a diamond engagement ring, now bore the bruising pressure of tight handcuffs. She hadn't spoken since her arrest. Not when the police read her rights. Not when the officer threw questions at her in a gruff voice. And not when they presented the evidence, photos, surveillance footage, and a fingerprint match. All of it damning. But she knew the truth. She wasn't the one who killed Dr. Felix Gray. She hadn't been anywhere near the scene. The woman who had was her sister, her twin. That night, when Daniel came to see her, his face was pale, almost lifeless. His eyes scanned hers like he was trying to understand a language he'd never heard before. She sat across the glass from him, her voice hoarse when she finally spoke. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something I should have told you from the beginning." Daniel leaned forward. "Please, just help me understand." She swallowed. "I have a twin sister. Her name is Isabel." He froze. "I didn't lie because I wanted to. I lied because I was ashamed." She told him how they were inseparable as children, growing up in a modest home in Ibadan. Same face, same voice, but different spirits. Where Amelia followed rules and begged for peace, Isabel chased chaos like it was oxygen. Drugs, theft, rage. She had always found a way to make destruction feel personal. And 3 years ago, Isabel disappeared. One final betrayal, one that nearly cost Amelia her job and sanity. She cut ties and started a new life in Lagos. "I never told you," Amelia whispered, "because I wanted to become someone else, someone who deserved love." Daniel stared at her in silence, his heart breaking. "She's the one they saw, the one who framed me, and I don't know where she is." Daniel couldn't sleep. Not the night after the wedding, not the night after that. Every time he closed his eyes, all he could see was Amelia, standing at the altar, looking terrified, then dragged away in handcuffs. And now this? A twin? A whole sister he never even knew existed? He wanted to be angry, but his heart wouldn't let him. He believed her. So, he began digging. Alone. Amelia had told him the name, Isabel Roberts. But there was no trace of her in Lagos, no ID records, no active phone. It was like chasing a shadow. He went to her old neighborhood in Ibadan asking questions. Some people remembered Amelia. Fewer remembered the wild twin sister. One man, their former landlord, rubbed his chin thoughtfully and said, "Ah, the other one. Isabel, that girl had fire in her blood. She vanished like smoke." Daniel pressed harder. Every day, every conversation unearthed a little more. He found a school photo. 2 girls, side by side. Identical faces, one smiling softly, the other smirking. Then he got a break. A bartender in Surulere recognized the face. He'd seen Amelia just 2 nights before the murder, loud and angry at the bar, shouting at someone on the phone. She had accused someone of abandoning her. She threw a glass at the wall. "That girl was unhinged," the bartender said. "But beautiful. You'd never guess she had fire in her like that." Daniel showed him a video of Amelia. The bartender squinted. "Nah, that's not her. The one I saw had something wild in her eyes. Same face, different vibe." He was getting closer. Then came the tip that changed everything. A hotel receptionist in Ohota claimed a woman had checked in using the name Amarachi Obi, but the face on the ID looked eerily like Amelia's. "She paid cash," the receptionist added. "Didn't talk much, but she had this coldness about her. Gave me chills." Daniel's pulse quickened. His gut told him what his heart already knew. He wasn't looking for Amelia anymore. He was chasing Isabel. The address led Daniel to a run-down building on the outskirts of Ohota. 3 stories of cracked cement walls, broken balcony railings, and rusted satellite dishes clinging to the side like forgotten scars. He stood outside for a moment, breathing hard, his hands clenched at his sides. Room 3B. He climbed the steps slowly. Every creak in the staircase sounded like a warning. When he reached the door, he knocked hard. Silence. Then footsteps. The knob turned. The door opened halfway. There she was. Same face. Same eyes. But he knew instantly, this wasn't Amelia. Her posture was sharper, her jaw more tense, her eyes cold. She looked him up and down like a stranger sizing up prey. "Daniel," she said with a crooked smile. "I was wondering when you'd find me." His stomach twisted. "Isabel." She leaned against the doorframe, unapologetic. "So, did my dear sister finally tell you about me? Or did the handcuffs say it first?" "You framed her," he said, his voice shaking. "You wore her face. You killed that man and made her look like a monster." Isabel rolled her eyes. "I didn't make her look like anything. People believe what they want. The good twin, the quiet one. Amelia always got everything. I got left behind." Daniel stepped forward. "She never abandoned you. You chose to burn every bridge." "Maybe," she shrugged. "But let's be honest, no one ever notices the broken one until we cause damage." He pulled out his phone. "I called the police before I came here. They're on their way." Her smile faded. She slammed the door shut, but it was too late. Outside, footsteps echoed up the stairs. Officers shouted. Isabel tried to run out the back, but they caught her in the stairwell. She fought, kicked, screamed. But eventually, she was cuffed and dragged down, the same way Amelia had been. Only this time, justice was right on time. Daniel stood watching, his heart heavy. He had seen 2 women with the same face, but only one had his heart. 3 weeks later, the courtroom was packed. The truth had finally come to light. Isabel Roberts confessed during interrogation how she used Amelia's old ID, mimicked her voice, even practiced her handwriting. She had followed Dr. Felix Gray for weeks, blaming him for an old clinic scandal that ruined her chances at treatment and stole what little hope she had left. The murder was planned. The framing of Amelia was the final piece of her twisted revenge. Amelia sat quietly at the back of the courtroom, in a simple blouse and skirt. Her once glamorous wedding dress had been returned to her in a plastic bag, stained and ruined. It remained hidden at the back of her closet, a symbol of everything that should have been. She didn't cry when the judge read Isabel's sentence. She didn't flinch when her sister turned to look at her, unrepentant. She just sat there, still, hollowed out. Even freedom couldn't undo the damage. Outside the courtroom, reporters rushed toward her. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted questions. "Do you forgive her? Will you still marry Daniel? What will you do now?" She didn't answer any of them. Daniel took her hand and pulled her through the crowd, shielding her with quiet strength. He had stood by her through the trial, refusing to walk away. Not once. A week later, they married in a quiet civil ceremony. No guests, no gowns, no flowers. Just two people, weary but in love, standing before a registrar and signing their names with trembling hands. There were no violins, no walk down the aisle. But there was peace. After the ceremony, they sat on a quiet bench under a mango tree outside the courthouse. Daniel looked at her and said, "I didn't fall in love with a perfect woman. I fell in love with a fighter." Amelia smiled faintly. "I still feel like a shadow sometimes, like I don't fully exist." He touched her hand gently. "You do. You survived." She looked up at him, eyes soft, voice barely a whisper. "Yes, but I'll never forget the day I wore white and walked away in chains." The end. If this story left your heart racing and your mind spinning, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. For more real, emotional African stories like this one, what would you do if you discovered your partner was hiding a twin? Do you think love can survive betrayal like this? Let's talk in the comments. I'm reading every one of them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.